Okay, last task. Not an easy one, but one that is really important that you can make this judgment and that you have an opinion on this. Okay, so you can't kind of just be like, oh, well, I don't really know. You have to decide one way or the other. Did Labour do a good job, or actually are we looking at the fact that they perhaps didn't do as good a job as they should have done, and maybe they, you could argue, you might argue they didn't do a good job at all. Um, they did it. They passed a lot of things and created a lot of policies that have stuck in Britain. Well, some of the benefits that people get stuck. The NHS, obviously, the Education Act. So lots of things were kept. But you've got to decide whether you would agree with that. So what I want you to do is create an argument as to whether you think they were good or they were bad. But I also want you to consider the counter argument. So if you, for example, if it was me, I would argue that Labour on the whole did a very, very good job. Introduced a lot of long-lasting things, but crucially, they looked after the poor people of Britain, and those people deserved to be looked after. Now, if I was writing the response, I would use those positive sides of the mind map to form my answer. So I would be saying that in the Education Act, for example, made education fairer. The welfare state supported those most in need. The NHS should have been started earlier anyway, but this was a fantastic system that covered people for any health issue they had, and that's why the average age of everyone went up. And I would be saying that some of the people are wrong, who criticise the welfare state and say it would cost too much. Or should we put a cost on human life and happiness? I don't think so. But you might argue it the other way around. You might say, actually, no, look, this is a government that's wasted so much money that they were never capable at all of keeping to budget. Everything that they introduced was a dreamland and not affordable to a country that had just come out of war. And they just didn't consider the bigger picture, and that you could argue that by 1950 the country's nearly running out of money, and the reason Labour lost is because the country didn't have enough faith in them anymore. Lots of things that you could argue. You could argue nationalisation was a waste of money, cost too much money, but money could have been spent elsewhere. Home for all policy, again, tried to provide for everyone all of the time, cost too much money. The big criticism of Labour is money. So decide yourselves, what do you think? But what I also want you to consider is, well, why are the other people wrong? So whatever your opinion is, why is the other side of the argument, why is it incorrect? So have a go.